Hi, welcome. It's great to be here. I'm so pleased to see you here. We've had some great sessions these last few weeks, and this one kind of follows on pretty closely from what we've been looking at with healthy conflict or positive disagreement. So, welcome. Welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen, and I build influential leaders. I'm a global coach who works with executives, with managers, and with owners, and I'm all about helping them to lead and to communicate with clarity, with confidence, and with impact. I'm here presenting Leadershipisation most every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. As I said before, the last couple of weeks, what we've been focused on is healthy conflict, those behaviors that we might need in a leadership role to be able to create and work towards having a culture that normalizes these conversations, that normalizes positive disagreement and the many benefits that can come out of that. When I was working with a client the other day, I was reminded about one key factor to unresolved conflict, to tension in executive groups or in teams. You might know it. It's what I call the meeting after the meeting. Now, we'll start out with a hard truth. There is a hard truth here. There will be post-meeting meetings. There will be meetings after the meeting where there'll be speculations, where opinions will be shared, where there'll be a little bit of gossip maybe, and where people's questions will be answered. Well, maybe they won't be answered. Maybe they'll just be posed. The big question for you, though, is, are you going to participate in those meetings after the meeting or not? And the second big question is, how can you minimize the mischief that might be created and move towards having a positive impact? So let's come back to where I quite often like to start, and that is, what is the meeting after the, what is the meeting after the meeting? What do I mean by that? Well, it happens after that main, more formal meeting. And it might take the form of little huddles of people. They might be in chat rooms. They might be on the phone to each other. And what they're going to do is they're going to dissect, they're going to digest, they're going to talk about those key points. And it provides an opportunity, I guess, for some people to clarify anything that they might have misunderstood. It helps to get more information. People can do a great big rant or a great big moan about whatever was shared in the meeting. And maybe what they can do is actually express some different opinions to the ones that were heard in the meeting. It's like an extension of that first meeting, but it's unofficial. Because maybe everyone who was in the first meeting isn't in the second meeting. And it takes a number of different forms. But one of the things often that the meeting after the meeting has that's really different from the formal meeting is that people can be much more animated. They can come to the meeting after the meeting with a lot more energy, with a lot more emotion, and they're really eager to share their perspective. They want to check to see, are you people on the same page as me? Did you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? And it's in here that there can be this awesome exchange of ideas, and people can actually be brainstorming different initiatives that weren't fully explored or might not have been decided upon in that main meeting. And because there's this open, more flowing conversation, you delve deeper, you dissect, and you explore. And so when you think about the impact that the meeting after the meeting might have on team dynamics, there are some benefits. There are a number of benefits. One is that it builds collaboration and those stronger relationships. And that's awesome. We're all about, in our team, collaboration and strong relationships. It also may contribute, as I said earlier, to open, to honest dialogue that didn't happen in the formal meeting. It might be that this is an opportunity for people to learn more, to get insight into each other, to learn more, to build those lessons, to learn from each other because they've got that insight. And that insight and that honesty and that collaboration is always going to build stronger relationships. Now, all of that seems really positive, doesn't it? Just going, oh, yeah, we should be having more of these meetings after the meeting. Well, there's a big however in there. The challenge that you have is that often these meetings, remember, there can be little huddles and little groups of people. These very often are where people might want to push their own agenda through. They might want to be asserting their authority over others. They might be contributing towards a little bit of an imbalance of power. So it might be that there comes to be a bit of a power struggle there, because people are bringing around them those that they think will agree with them or potentially will disagree with whoever was running the formal meeting. Yeah. Often too, this contributes to people forming little side cliques, little groups that feel a particular way or have a particular viewpoint or present with a particular attitude. And that can be quite difficult. That can be quite difficult. The question I want you to ask yourself here, if you're observing lots of these meetings after a meeting, is this one. Why is it that all of this animation, all of this exchange of ideas, all of this collaboration, and all of this open, honest dialogue, why is it that it can happen in the meeting after the meeting, but it isn't happening at the formal meeting? That's the big question for you to reflect on, because you want that dialogue, you want that openness and honesty, you want that range of different perspectives. You want all of that aired in the formal meeting. So, as a leader, what we've got to do is look to manage the meeting after the meeting and make sure that our formal meetings are as positive and constructive as they can possibly be. We want to encourage that openness, that honesty in communication at the formal meetings. We want that two-way dialogue. We also need to make sure that what we're doing is trying to unsettle any particular, I'm not sure that that's the right word. What we want to do is to make sure that people are respected and that they're treated, that their perspective is treated, or is heard and is treated valuably at those informal meetings. So it's almost like we've got to set some boundaries for that. And if what you're doing is setting boundaries for healthy conflict anyway, and how to manage that, then hopefully that will transfer over to that meeting after the meeting. And you should have many less of those if what you're doing is encouraging respect, active listening, and making sure that you're not damaging relationships in the informal meetings. Your goal all the time is going to be to enhance the team dynamics and to really be driving and pushing towards that effective decision making. So as a leader, if you haven't quite got your organization set up so that the formal meetings do include managing healthy conflict, if you're not at that point just yet, make sure that what you're doing is setting those boundaries around the meetings after the meeting so that people don't go to that and feel as though they're being coerced or pushed into doing something because there's a bit of a power struggle going on. You don't want your team feeling as though they need to make a choice between what you as a leader might be saying and what this other person or people who have some reputation in the group amongst the team. You don't want it to be like an us against them situation and have your team feeling as though they've got to make their minds up about who they're going to support. Let's look now at how you might reduce the need for the meeting after the meeting. Again, it comes back to how you are managing your formal meetings. If what you've got is clear and effective communication, if what you're able to do is to clarify the outcomes, if what you're able to do is to encourage open two-way dialogue, so that you can share all of that important information in the formal meeting, not keeping some of it back just in case you might want to tell people a bit later. If you are ready to tell people, tell them all at the same time. We want to make sure that what you're doing in your formal meetings is creating a space where people are safe, where they feel comfortable, where they feel valued, and where they feel respected. And really importantly, where all perspectives, where all opinions are likely to be considered. You want your people to feel comfortable speaking up. And you can do this by emphasizing the value of that full formal discussion. If you can have the full formal discussion quickly or sooner, without 2 or 3 meetings after the meeting, you'll get to that decision making much faster. And of course, because you've considered all perspectives, it will be much better informed. It's also an opportunity for you to build collaboration, to use your formal meetings as an opportunity to build collaboration, because that's always going to lift your efficiency and it will always lift productivity. Together, we're better than just trying to do it by ourselves. And as I said earlier, the more you can minimize that meeting after the meeting, it's going to make for quicker, more informed decisions. And those decisions will be more inclusive and much more robust because everyone's had their say about what they look like. So all of this can seem quite simple. Let me tell you, it's not, because there'll be some resistance to change, and there will and that and some other potential challenges. So when we look at the potential challenges, the first one is this resistance to change. People like to be able to exert their influence. They want to be able to voice their disagreement. And that's perfectly okay. That there's something that we can learn from people who are wanting to just take a little while to consider all the possibilities before they go all in on an idea. So This is about you making sure that what you're doing is encouraging people, particularly those you know might be likely to have a different perspective, really encourage them to be speaking at that full meeting. Now, if you have someone on your team who doesn't like speaking in that environment, you can help them. You can give them confidence by going and having a conversation with them one-on-one before the formal meeting to hear what their perspective is. And then to introduce them to the meeting, to give them confidence, you start by voicing what their perspective is. You start by saying, Fred has this perspective. We talked about it the other day, and these are the things that I noticed about it. Fred, would you like to speak to that? Fred, what have I missed here? So that what you're doing is bringing that person, strategically called Fred, but you're bringing that person into the conversation. And that will then help with their confidence speaking in front of the group, because you've given them that little bit of an introduction and you've demonstrated that you value their opinion, whether it's mainstream or not. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that everyone in the team needs to understand how to manage conflict positively. Everyone. So this is all about that respect. This is all about having empathy. Remember, empathy does not mean you agree with them. You don't have to agree with someone to empathize with them. So getting back on track, respect, empathy, and that active listening that we've talked about so many times. And it also gives you that opportunity when you're managing positive conflict to be able to make sure that you are considering alternative solutions. The meeting after the meeting. It has the potential to shape your team dynamics, and you don't want the team dynamics to be wobbling off to the side. It has the potential also to keep people divided and to slow down decision making. Because what's talked about over there is not talked about in the formal meeting. Instead, if you and your leadership role are able to provide clear expectations, you promote that open dialogue, you encourage and support transparency, you teach people how to disagree positively, you introduce that healthy conflict concept, you encourage greater collaboration, and that in turn leads to more consistent and faster and more robust decision making. Your success as a team and as an organization is definitely going to grow. So, thank you for being here today. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them on the platform that you're watching this on, and we'll get back to you. I love it to hear what people's comments are. If you're watching this as replay, #replay would be wonderful as well. Look, perhaps you recognize that your team needs to learn to disagree positively. If you think that's the case, then please reach out, because in July, I have my 30 days Say It Smarter program. I work with a group of 8 executives, managers, business owners in a 30-day program to lift their skills, including how to disagree positively. So please reach out. Thank you again. See you next week. Bye now.